Hello dear students, I'm sure you must be studying now because this is the time for your exams and I'm sure you're doing very well. I hope you're going through all the notes I gave you. I hope you're going through all the important points that I had mentioned. Today, to help you a little bit more, what I'm doing is I'm going through two of the soliloquies that are important for your course. These are from Hamlet, Shakespeare's tragedy, Hamlet. You have studied it well, we have done it in class. Now I want to further discuss those soliloquies so that they become clearer to you. The first one is when Hamlet is completely distraught and he is very upset that not only is his father dead, but then his father's brother, his own uncle, has taken the throne, he has taken the kingdom, he has taken everything. He has now become the king, and not only that, his mother has now married her husband's brother, that is Hamlet's uncle. So Hamlet is extremely upset, as you can understand, and in this state of being extremely emotional, he brings out his inner feelings in this soliloquy. Let us go through this, and every 2 or 3 lines I'm going to stop reading and I'm going to explain the meaning of what is being said. So Hamlet says, "Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter." So Hamlet is so upset, he's so distraught that he literally wants to die. He says, "Why does my flesh just not turn into dew?" The dewdrops, you know what are dewdrops? Those tiny droplets of water that you see in the winter on blades of grass on every surface, and when the sun comes up, it just evaporates. So he says, "Why can't my body just become like dew and just evaporate when the sun comes up? I don't want to live any longer." Then he says, "Or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter." He said, "I would kill myself too. I could commit suicide. That is how terrible I feel about this. But there is something called God, and God has said that you cannot take away the life that I have given you." So he says, "I can't kill myself also. Oh God, how very stale, flat, and unprofitable seems to me all the uses of this world." So he says, this whole world, you have to keep in mind that he's a prince. So he has all the riches in the world. He has everything that he could want, that he could need. Despite that, he says all of this is useless, it is worthless. Because he doesn't even want to live anymore. His world was really ideal. He had a father that he adored. He had a father whom he really respected, and he thought he was a really good king. He had a mother that he loved dearly, and suddenly the world is upside down for him. His father is no more, his uncle has taken the kingdom, and his mother has married now the uncle. And Hamlet doesn't know what to make of this. He says, "Why don't I die? I could kill myself, but I can't because God is against it." And he says how very stale, flat, and unprofitable, how completely useless everything is, because even though he's a prince, and even though he has all the riches in the world, and even though he has many servants and many maids doing everything that he needs, he really can't want anything in this world. But none of that matters to him, because right now his world is completely destroyed. "Fie on it, oh fie! 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely." So he says this world is an unweeded garden. Weeds, you know what weeds are? Weeds are those grass-like things or plants that are useless, that you actually pull out from your garden so that your other trees, your other plants can grow better. So he says it is an unweeded garden, which means a garden that is not being taken care of, where poisonous plants are taking over. That it should come to this. So he's saying, how did all this happen? That it should come to this. This is how things are now. "But 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was, to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not between the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly." So he says, "But 2 months dead." He has been gone just 2 months. And then he says, "Nay, not so much, not 2. It hasn't even been 2 months yet. So excellent a king." So you can see how he really idolizes his father. You can see how he has a lot of respect for his father as a king, as an administrator, as a father. So he says, "So excellent a king that was, to this, Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother. Now he's talking about how dearly his father loved his mother. And remember, the mother has now gone and married the uncle. You can imagine how upset Hamlet must be about this. So he says, and within 2 months of his father's death, the mother has gone and married the uncle. So he says, but 2 months dead. Nay, not so much, not even 2 months yet. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother. He used to love my mother so much that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. So even if the winds blew in her face too roughly, he did not like it. That is how much he loved my mother. Heaven and earth, must I remember? Why she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet within a month, let me not think on it. So he says, heaven and earth, must I remember? He said, why doesn't my memory go away? If I can't be killed, if I can't be turned into dew, and if I can't just evaporate in the sun, or if I can't kill myself, why do I have to remember? I wish I didn't have to remember all this. I wish my memory would go away. Why does he say this? Because he says that I remember how my mother used to hang on to my father. She was also very much in love with him, or at least that is what Hamlet thought. And she would just follow him everywhere. She would be with him all the time, and she acted so lovingly. She acted like the ideal wife. She acted like the ideal queen. And even after this, what has happened? Within a month, she has married. Now, see, the father has not been dead for more than 2 months, but definitely the mother did not marry the uncle the day he died. So, just a month after his death, the mother has married the uncle, and this is something Hamlet just cannot handle. So he says, must I remember? Why she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet within a month, let me not think on it. And then he says, frailty, thy name is woman. Frailty is not being loyal, not being strong. Rather, frail is the opposite of strong. So, being loyal takes a lot of strength of character. And he says, frailty, thy name is woman. So, women, basically, he is accusing all women now. Although this is ridiculous, this is unfair, this is unwarranted. Yet, because he is in that disturbed state of mind, he says, frailty, thy name is woman. That means all women are just frail like this. A little month, or ere those shoes were old, with which she followed my poor father's body like Niobe, all tears. Why she, even she, O God, a beast that wants discourse of reason, would have mourned longer. Now he says, a little month, or ere those shoes were old, those shoes that she was wearing, those shoes in which she followed my dead father's body. Before those shoes were old, how long can you wear shoes? Maybe 6 months, a year. If they are really good shoes, maybe 2 years. So even before those shoes were worn out, even though before those shoes were old, those very shoes in which she followed her husband's body, that is, to his funeral, even before those shoes were old, she was married. So it is really not a long time. She really took no time to grieve, and that is what Hamlet is very upset about. And he says she was like Niobe. Niobe is a river. So he says like Niobe, all tears. So she was just crying her eyes out as if a river was flowing through her eyes. Why she, even she, oh God, a beast that wants discourse of reason would have mourned longer. So he's now so angry. He says even a beast, even an animal would have waited longer, would have mourned longer the loss of a partner. And yet what did she do? Married with my uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules. So he says she, within that month, she went and married my father's brother. And that brother is so not like my father. Because just like I'm not like Hercules, just like I'm not strong enough like Hercules, he's not fit enough to be a king. He's just a common man. Within a month, ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her galled eyes, she married. So before the salt in her tears could be wiped away, she married. It is as if she did not feel bad about her husband's passing at all. Suddenly she's married, she's all happy. It's as if nothing happened. Oh, most wicked speed, to post with such dexterity to incestuous cheats. So he says, with what speed did she just go about her life? Could she not have mourned a little longer? Could she not have been more loyal to my father? It is not, nor it can. I'm sorry. It is not, nor it cannot come to good. He says this is not good, and it cannot come to good, which means the end of this kind of a situation cannot be good. There has to be some kind of propriety. There has to be some kind of proper conduct, and that Hamlet thinks is very, very missing. But break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. So he says, despite all this, despite knowing all this, and you also know that Hamlet suspects his brother of killing his father. So he says that this is something I cannot bear. This is a grief that my heart cannot hold, and yet I cannot speak. So break my heart. I can't speak. I can't let the emotions out of my heart, but my heart is so full of it. He says, break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. That is, I must keep quiet. I cannot say anything about this. So this is one of the famous soliloquies in Hamlet. But you know that there is another soliloquy that is even more famous. Let me just get to it quickly. Give me 1 minute and we'll have opened this. To be or not to be is the soliloquy that I'm talking about, and you have all read it. We have done it in class extensively, but we are just going to go over it one more time so that it's easier for you to remember. Please save this lecture so that you can listen to it whenever you want. Okay, so to be or not to be. It's one of the most famous soliloquies, not just in Shakespeare, but in all of literature. So let's go through this a little bit. Now the situation, as you know, is that Hamlet, as I already discussed, he is very disturbed, and now he wants to take revenge. He wants to take revenge on his father's brother. He wants to show him. He wants to show him that his crime did not go undetected. But we have also discussed the fatal flaw, that is the hamartia, in Hamlet's character. In Hamlet's character, the fatal flaw is his indecisiveness. He just waffles over every decision. He can't quickly decide, and he can't quickly act. So the fatal flaw in Hamlet, it is said, is his hamartia. That is, the fatal flaw or the hamartia in Hamlet is that he does not decide or he does not act quickly. So here again is one of those places where he's unable to decide what to do. He's unable to decide what the correct course of action is. Now see what he says here. To be or not to be, that is the question. To be or not to be, to live or not to live, to live or to die, that is the question. Now you've already seen that Hamlet was so disturbed that he wanted to die. He did say, why can't I just turn into dew, so that the moment the sun comes up, my body just evaporates and then I'm no more. He says, I would kill myself, but then God has ordained against it and I cannot kill myself. So what is the next best thing? Now he's thinking, to be or not to be, that is the question. Should I live? Should I die? That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep. We'll take this up later. Let's just go through the first 2 or 3 lines. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Fortune, that is destiny. And Hamlet's destiny has really been unkind to him, has been very cruel to him. His life, as I said earlier, was ideal. It was perfect. He had a father that he idolized. He had a mother that he loved. And he also thought that his mother equally loved his father, like the father loved the mother. Unfortunately, things take a very drastic turn in that his father is poisoned, gets killed. The throne is taken up by his own brother, which makes Hamlet suspect that his own brother had poisoned him. And not only does he poison his brother, he also marries Hamlet's mother. So here he's, as I said, in a very disturbed state of mind, and he's wondering what to do. What exactly should we do? Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, the fortune that has been so outrageous to him, that has been so... sorry, my phone is ringing. I should have put it on silent. I'll do that now. Okay. So, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. So, the fortune, the way it has treated me, should I just suffer it quietly? Is that the better thing to do? Is that the nobler thing to do? Is that the more correct thing to do? So, is it morally the correct thing to do? Is it nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? Whatever fortune has thrown my way, should I just suffer it quietly, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them? So, or should I take up arms against a sea of troubles? My troubles are huge, they are large. There's a huge sea of troubles in front of me. So should I take up arms against them? Should I just, fight this destiny? Should I fight back life, so to say, and end them? End them means end all troubles, which possibly means his own life as well. Because he can see that if he does take up arms, if he does fight the king, he may not live. So he says, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, what is the better thing to do? Should I just suffer everything, or to take up arms, or to fight back, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them? Should I just end everything? To die, to sleep no more. And by sleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to? Okay, so now here's the question. When he's talking about to be or not to be, this is what is bothering him. Should he live? Should he die? Should he carry on the way it is, or should he fight back? Now he knows that by ending everything, he himself is not going to live much. So what is he to do? He doesn't mind dying, that is for sure. But he says, is that the correct thing to do? Is that what God would approve of? He says, to die, to sleep no more. What is death? It's just like sleep. And by a sleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. But what do we say here? By sleeping, do we just, do we end all our heartache? Do we end all our troubles? When we sleep, that when we talk about sleeping, we talk about dreams also. We also say that we sometimes have nightmares. Sometimes there are pleasant dreams, sometimes there are nightmares, sometimes our dreams don't make any sense at all. Now he is comparing death to sleep. So he says, what is death? Is it just like sleep? So, and if we do sleep in death, does it mean an end to all of our frustrations, to all of our troubles, to all of our problems? It is a consummation devoutly to be wished. If it is indeed an end to all our troubles, then I really want that for me. To die, to sleep. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. Okay, so now here he's doubting himself. He says to die, to sleep. That is, when we die, it's like a sleep. To sleep, perchance to dream. Perchance means maybe to dream. Aye, there's the rub. So, there is the problem. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. I have to stop and think, because in that sleep of death, what kind of dreams I may have, what kind of nightmares I may have, nobody knows. Maybe I'll finally, after death, maybe I'll find out. Maybe there's some kind of life after death, nobody knows. So he says, maybe in that life, I'll find out that what I did was wrong and that I'm now condemned to hell. So I don't want that. That is not right. That is not morally right. That is not what God would want. So once we are dead, if we do dream and if we do find out that what we have done is wrong, now there's no waking up. At least from a regular sleep, if we have a nightmare, we wake up and then things become easier for us. But in this kind of dream, which comes after death, there is no going back. So he says that makes me pause, that makes me stop and think about what my future course of action is. So there you go, students. These were the two famous soliloquies in Hamlet, and I hope this has been clear to you. As always, if there are any problems, if you have any more questions, you can always contact me. Have a good time.